my name is Christine.
And I'm Akshaya, and this is Teen Talk at Lore TV.
We're so excited to have you back here with us again this week.
Yeah, and if you missed any of our other episodes, you can always search us up on Facebook or YouTube with Teen Talk Lore TV.
Yeah. So, Akshaya, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How about you? Anything new this week?
Not really. I mean, it was my dad's birthday last week, so that was pretty exciting. And because it was Valentine's Day on that day, I went to my grade 1 class. They're so cute. They got me little presents and everything, and like little Valentine's Day cards.
That's so sweet.
I love grade 1s. They're super cute. Yeah. So I thought before we get into our talk today that we could maybe play a little bit of a game. What do you think?
I'm cool with that.
All right, so she actually doesn't know what game this is, so I'm surprising her. But what this game is that I'm going to show you a zoomed in picture, and for the viewers who are watching, you'll also be able to see this picture, and you're going to try and guess what it is. Okay? And I'm going to actually show you the picture itself. So this is the picture. What is that?
I have no clue.
Take a guess.
I don't.
Take a guess.
That looks so weird.
Take a guess.
How am I supposed to take a guess of something I don't know? Like,
I don't know.
Like, what is this bird-looking part?
Okay, are you ready to see what it actually is? Okay. It was an apple.
That
It
did
was
not
the stem
of an apple. That did not look like the apple. Yeah, no. I was like...
It's okay. I was stumped when I was looking at it too. I'll show you another one. Okay. This one? What is that?
Is this some sea creature?
It reminded me of the Grinch when I saw it. It was like the Grinch color.
Some sort of cactus-y, sparkly looking thing. I don't know.
Cactus. A sparkly cactus is what she guessed.
I don't know.
It's a tomato. A tomato. Sparkly cactus.
It was like prickly and then it like looks sparkly.
If you missed our first episode, you'll know she's the diva, so I'm not surprised that she guessed sparkly cactus.
What do you mean? That has nothing to do with it. Okay, this one. Something with wood. I don't know.
You're close.
Something with. How am I supposed to know? It's like
you
so
should
random.
know. You've been using this since like forever.
What thing have I been using? A chair?
No.
Table?
In school? What do you use? Clearly, Akshay has never used this. Pencil.
Okay, everyone uses lead pencils or pens now, so like no one really uses that.
Okay, and I believe this is the last one that we're going to be going through. What is this?
Okay, it's like wool and string. I don't know. A shoe? No. I don't know. I'm just guessing because it was like string with the wool. Not a shoe.
Well, I mean, it's a good guess. Like, it looks like the shoelace of a shoe.
But like shoelaces don't look like that, so I don't know.
Any ideas? It is a
tea bag. Okay.
So how difficult was that game?
Really difficult because you do not look that close at little things, and so I'm not gonna know what that is.
Yeah, so I wanted to just play that small little game. It was actually inspired by one of our friends who gave us the game idea. So there's your little shout out. But I wanted to share this game because I wanted to talk about taking the Bible out of context, right? And so how do you think that game kind of relates to taking the Bible out of context?
I feel like, for me at least, the first thing that comes to mind with that game is when people read the Bible, sometimes they focus on like one small little thing rather than looking out like the whole passage or something. So for example, like a lot of the times are like me, like reading the Bible, I've learned that reading just one verse doesn't exactly make sense, or you could take it out of context and like you could think that this is what God said, but if you don't read the whole passage, then you don't really know.
Right, and what's important to remember is that before, when the Bible was created, there was no chapters, there was no like subheadings. It was Genesis. This is the entire thing for Genesis. Exodus, this is the entire thing. Like it was not split up into chapters or verses or little like subheadings. Like they just didn't have that, right? But now just so it's easier to reference it, we have those. But it's also you have to remember you can't take those out of context, right? Do you know any verses that are kind of most commonly taken out of context, even if you don't know it like exactly, or like
oh no, I'm trying to think.
particular? I think one of the big ones is on giving.
Yeah.
In church, especially. What's kind of the biggest thing that kind of goes on there with the giving?
With giving in church, it's like it's mandatory, and like you have to give, and like only if you give you will be blessed. Yeah.
And I think that's like a huge thing, because I'm like, God literally does not say that.
Or like,
at all in the Bible.
God blesses us regardless of whether we give or not. Like that's His grace. So we do, like giving isn't a mandatory thing.
Yeah.
It's something that comes like from your heart, like if you want to.
Exactly. And God even tells us, like, you know, He wants it from our heart. So if we're not genuine with it, He's like, it's okay. Like, I'm good. Like, please don't give it to me, kind of thing, right? It's like we want to give it genuinely. We shouldn't feel like we're forced to give. And I think that's like a big thing that like a lot of churches, surprisingly, I've talked to a lot of my friends, and they also know of a lot of churches who, you know, preach that way. It's just like, oh, you have to do this in order to be blessed, like, you know, 10 times, or like, you know, you have to give 10% of your income in order to be blessed, kind of thing. It's just like, well, what's the point of God dying for us on the cross? What's the point of Jesus dying if that's what we're kind of going back to, you know?
Yeah, so it's just like knowing that like it's not mandatory and stuff like that, but like they use a whole bunch of other verses, or like, I think another one that comes to mind for me is like, ask and you will receive, like the one that goes along. So like in that sense, everyone like, or some people may think that you could just like ask God for anything, and then He'll just like, you know, bring it, will show up at your doorstep or something.
And that's so not true. And I think that's actually one of the verses we're going to be looking at.
Okay.
So let's take a look at it.
Okay.
How about it? So let's find that one, which is in Matthew, chapter 7. Verse 7 to 8. Let's take a look at that. Do you want to read it?
So
7
to 8. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the human traditions.
Yep. Right. So I guess that kind of goes in with, you know, they worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. They let go of commands. And it kind of goes in with the whole, you know, ask and you shall receive, and all of that, because, you know, that verse is telling us that God isn't going to give you everything just because
you want it.
You want it, right? But He's going to give it to us. So that was actually in Mark chapter 7, verse 7 to 8, because I wanted to bring this up because it's like telling us that, you know, these people are worshiping me in vain. They're like, you know, doing all these things. So when we go to look at Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 to 8,
it says, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you, for everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened.
Right. So in this one, what do you think that, how do you think people might take this out of context? I know you mentioned a little bit of it, so when we're reading the entire thing, how do you think people might take it out of context?
So the way they think that God works is maybe like kind of like a genie. You just like ask for whatever you want, like, and He'll make your wishes come true regardless of what they are. Yeah.
Think of Aladdin, you know, the genie, the 3 wishes, like, you know, that's a true point. I think that's what a lot of people think. Yeah. Does anything else come to mind?
Or just like, I guess the other idea will be just like, like with doors being open, it's like opportunities will like flood open for them, and they'll just get everything they want out of life, and it'll be so easy for them because God said that I could give everything to you.
Right. And I think that's like the biggest thing that people kind of like take in the wrong way, because it's like God isn't going to give you everything, especially if you ask with wrong motives, right? If you're not asking for it to glorify God, like He's not going to give you. Like if I sat here and was like, God, I really want like this really expensive house, and like, you know, right now, so can you just like please give it to me? And it's just like, is God really going to give it to me?
No.
Probably not.
And like even the other way of looking at it as well is just like, it's for His glory or for your happiness. The thing is, like, we always have this idea of we know exactly what we want in life to make us happy, but the thing is, God actually knows compared to us. Whereas like we
Exactly.
think we know, but he
Yeah.
does. So for him, it's just like, well, I can't just give you everything you want because you're just gonna like suffer, or like you're gonna go through things that you probably don't want to and you'll regret later on.
Right, and I think that's the biggest difference between being a follower of Christ and going through with any other religion, right? Just because Akshaya here, she grew up in a Hindu home,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I had literally no idea about anything of Hinduism. Like I know my dad came from a Hindu background, but he also came to Christ very early on before he got married. So again, I have no idea, but it wasn't until I met her that I realized like everything that encompasses the Hindu religion. I'm like, what? Like that happens? Like really? And when I see this verse and how people preach it, it's like, you know, ask God for this, like whatever you want. And they think that, you know, if I ask God for this, he's going to give it to me. Doesn't it kind of go back to
Exactly how I used to pray. So for me, that's like the thing where prayer was very different in a Christian like way rather than in the way that I was taught. Because for me, it was like when I prayed to God, all I was told to do was just ask for things I wanted. So like, you know, okay, God, like help me do good in school, or like I want this, I want that. It was literally just a list of things I wanted that I prayed for.
Right, and I think that's like the biggest mistake that we as followers of Christ are doing. Like, we're not, you know, part of these other religions. We are solely part of following Christ.
Yeah.
So why do we then, you know, put these other things that other people from different religions pray for and the way that they pray when we shouldn't even be doing that?
Exactly.
Right?
And like our like faith in Christ is more so of a relationship. So like for me, the whole idea beforehand of like asking God, what do you want, or like what do you want me to do, and like for his opinion and everything, like that didn't exist before. But being a Christian, like that's what it is. Like God is like essentially like another person. He's your friend. So it's like in any relationship you see, it's like a two-way street. It's never just like, you know, like one way where you get everything you want, or just like him, like he's always there working for you and doing everything for you to help you. But at the same time, we need to like go back and listen to him, or just like have those conversations, because they are two-way.
Right. And so now that we've kind of uncovered how people take it out of context, I really want to talk about, you know, the purpose that God gave for this verse. And it was to show us how confidently we need to be praying and asking God for what we want, as long as it's through his will. And once you get closer to God, because if you don't understand this concept of, okay, how do I know if what I'm praying for is like is what God wants, right? As you get closer to God and as you start building your relationship with him, you'll know, right?
It'll become a lot easier. Or else another way of knowing is just because it simply can be from like, if this is like what's in the Bible in a way, where it's just like something that follows that, or if it's just like rather than it being something just for your own pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. So once you build that relationship with him, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, of how, you know, do you build a relationship with God, especially if you're stuck. Because trust me, I've been there where it's like, oh, I really don't know, and it kept going back and forth of like, okay, I want to get close to God, no, I can't, I'm not. Like now I want to, and now I'm not. And it's just like, it's really frustrating, especially if you don't know the direction you want to go
Because like
in.
even for any follower of Christ, like once like building a relationship when you don't know Christ at all is like one thing, but like another thing for us Christians as well is just like when you're in Christ and you have a relationship, but then like, you know, you stop and then you kind of go on a break, and it feels like even though you're trying very hard, it's hard to kind of like go back and like, so building that up again, essentially.
And it's really difficult. It's not easy. And I did want to take a look at one more verse just before we kind of close off with this, and it's in Romans 8:28. I think this is one that is also commonly taken out of context as well, which it really shouldn't be. So Romans 8:8. Do you want to read that?
Yeah. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
So how do you think people may take that verse out of context?
And those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Like God only works for people, or like cares about the people that follow him in a way.
Yeah, and I think one of the other big ones that people take out of context, it says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. So it's like, you know what, if you love God and you're with God, then God's gonna give you everything. And like there's nothing bad that's gonna happen to you, and it's just like gonna be this perfect world. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, see, the thing is that kind of goes out of context where it's just like, yes, God is in control of this world and this life, but at the same time, it's like this world is cursed and like we have our flesh and our desires and sin like going all in place. So it's just like living that perfect life of like, being sin-free. Like it's impossible to be sin-free for us in this world. The only person that was Jesus.
Exactly. And when you take this verse in that context of, if I follow God and nothing's bad's going to happen to me, and then a major illness happens to someone that you love, or to you even, or, something like as horrible, such like a young death or something in your family happens or occurs, then it's like this verse literally means nothing to you if that's the sole purpose of the context you took it in, right? But then what is the subheading for this?
Present suffering and future glory.
So when you read that, it's like present suffering. Like God never promised that if we followed him, we're gonna have like an easy
life,
like
or everything will be
life.
like fine.
But he did promise that after, when we have eternal life and when we get to, be reunited with him, like then he promises that 100%.
Exactly.
But right now, while we're living in this world, he doesn't promise that.
No.
But he does promise that he's going to be with us every single step of the way. And he's going to use what we kind of go through to help us and to build us and to help us trust in him even more. And I think that's the best part of it, because whatever you're kind of going through, like you're not alone. You're never alone.
You're not alone, or it's just like not something that's out of control, or like you can like ever look back and just like solely like regret. Like yes, there's a lot of like bad things that could have happened that you wish didn't, but then God's gonna find a way to use that for like his good and like to just build you up as a person. So at the end, it's like you've overcome that thing.
Yeah. So I think that's just like such a great verse. And I wanted to bring in the story of how, if you were to take this verse in that context of like, okay, because I worship God, because I follow him, nothing bad's gonna happen to me, I want to share a story with you of how a lady never took it like that. So my dad, he went to go work, he's a landscaper, so he went to go work at someone's house, and she's Christian, and she has, I think, one or two kids, and they were going to church one day, and they were coming home, and it was really, really icy. It was like pretty bad. And what happened was that when he walked out of church, he ended up slipping really bad, and he hit his head really bad. And on that spot, he passed away. Like he was right there, right? And for someone who maybe had taken that verse, or maybe any of the other verses in that context, they would have. What do you think would?
They would have been mad at God. They would have lost trust. I would be like, if that's what my impression of God was, and I truly believe that, then I would be like, okay, well, great. Like, I guess he doesn't love me, or just like, or I don't love him enough maybe, and I'll be trying to like do all these things just like to earn his love, when it's like, God doesn't say we have to earn his love, it's already given.
Exactly. And the great thing about this is that this lady, she's still so faithful to Christ, because she knows that, God is going to be there for her and be faithful. And it was tragic. I'm not going to say like it hurt, and we're all human. Of course it's going to, hurt us, and, we're going to be upset. But the biggest thing is how we can't give up faith on Christ, especially when we take these verses out of context. And I think that's like the biggest thing when people take it out of context. I'm like, no, just read the entire Bible.
Read the entire thing, or else always remember that you can always like ask people around you that you trust, like whether it be like the Christian friends that you have, people at your church, like wherever you are, and like finding like communities for that. Or sometimes you can search like articles online, just like making sure it's right. But like, you could just ask people in general, like, hey, I don't understand what this verse means, can you explain it to me? Like, there's someone who's more than willing to share that with you if you're struggling with that. Because I've been there like so many times where like middle of the night I'll just keep texting Christine like, I don't know what this means, I don't know what this means.
Yeah, and then I'm like, okay, where'd you find it? Because I have to go back and read it, because I don't want to say something that's completely out of context. But that's the great thing about, if you go to a local church and you're part of a church community, there's leaders there for a reason. And that leader is not just your pastor either. It's anyone there who is an elder. Like, just go ask them. They're more than willing to share their knowledge with you, right? It takes time, and I'm not gonna tell, like, they may not end up knowing the answer, but the great thing is that if they're a really good leader, they're gonna be like, okay, you know what? let's work on this together, or I'm going to find the answer for you and I will let you know.
Exactly.
Right? And like that's a great thing about that. So don't be afraid to ask for help, because God never told us to do any of this by ourselves.
Yeah.
This is why he created community for us.
Exactly. Like throughout, you can see like God enforces community as something that's really important, because he didn't want us to like go through this walk alone. Like, yes, like we have him as well, but he's also like, I want you to like have your brothers and sisters in Christ as well, and just like help each other, because he knows how useful that is. That's why we have all these people around us.
Exactly, and that's why we have community. So it's really important. So I encourage you to take a look at some of the verses that you may take out of context, and I really encourage you, I mean we both do, to read the entire chapter or read the entire book. I mean, reading the entire book is probably the best way, but I also know that not all of us have a whole lot of time.
But like even making the time, it doesn't have to happen in one night. Just like, you know, like going through it, and then like you kind of like see from there, like, you know, for me, like when I read my Bible, it's easier to like make tabs or like highlight or underline, so that way I can like refer back to it. So like whatever works for you, but just like figuring out what it truly means, rather than just seeing one verse and being like, okay, this is what God's word is.
And I think one of the biggest things is like, okay, God, I need you to talk to me. I'm gonna flip through. Okay, we're gonna pick a verse. What does that say? You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. What does that even mean? Like, that's probably not the best way to
and then you're
out
just like, or like if that's like your verse of the day, then it kind of throws you in a bad mood where it's like, oh, okay.
Well then, I guess, you know, God doesn't love me. So don't do that. I encourage you not to. But, you know, God just speaks to you in many different ways. So I think we'll just kind of leave off with a little challenge and a encouragement to kind of put you guys on the right track. So would you like to read out the challenge?
So think about 2 of the verses that you seem to take out of context the most often. And then we'd love to hear about which ones you take out of context, and don't forget to figure out the real meaning behind it.
Right. So I'm sure you guys all take stuff out of context. I mean, I've done it multiple times.
Everyone's done it. So like even just sharing those stories, or if you see something now that you took out of context, or see something like that verse that we just read that's kind of confusing you, and then we could kind of like, you know, give the answers.
And also remember that with these challenges, we really want to encourage you to share them. So you can share them with us on Lord TV. So you can just tag Lord TV and do #Teen Talk, or you can always email us.
At teatalk@lordtv.org.
If you email them to us, and we'd love to have a talk with you, and like, you know, just email back. We love talking to people, so we'd love to be able to do that. Just to kind of help you with these contexts, or, you know, maybe even if it's a context, like a verse that you've already taken on context, so now you're like, okay, like now I actually know the context, so I'm not going to do that again. We'd still love to hear about all of those. Okay? And I'm just going to leave you off with a little bit of an encouragement. And it says, let's quit taking the Bible verses out of context. We need to know the books and chapters, not out of context phrases. Okay? So I think once we start taking, you know, these Bible verses and these books and everything out of context, we'll be in such a better place to understand God and to really
be able to like live out for him, because if we don't really know what he's telling us or know what he wants us to do, then it becomes very hard, and that's why we go through a lot of confusion. And like the thing that I always remind myself of is that God is not a God of confusion. He's very straightforward and clear. Like if you read throughout the Bible, you'll see that. So,
And even when you read through the Bible, like you may not end up getting, especially if you're newer to the Christian faith, and you're kind of just journeying, or you're not exactly 100% sure, and you're like, okay, maybe Jesus is for me, but I'm not 100% sure. It's going to be confusing at first, right? I mean, I've been a Christian since the day I was born. Like, I've grown up in a Christian home. I didn't get saved until I was 18, but I've been around the Bible enough for me to have been reading it for so long that like I understand it now. I mean, there's still certain parts that I don't like completely understand, and that's okay, right? And I think that's the important thing, is that your Christian life, you're always going to be growing.
Exactly.
Right? There's never a point in your life
where you just like achieved ultimate Christianity. You like whatever that is, there is no point in life. It's just like as we go on in this life, in this world, we're continuously growing until the day we meet Jesus.
Exactly. So we just want to leave that off with you. We just want to encourage you that if you haven't already, check out our other episodes. Make sure you share them. Like Lord TV on Facebook. You'll keep up to date with all of them, and you can also subscribe to us on YouTube as well.
Yeah, and so just to like remind you again for like emailing us and like sharing anything, you can just like do that with teentalk@lordtv.org, and we'll be here every Wednesday. And then if you missed that episode, you can also catch us on Saturday as well.
So don't forget to share. Please write to us. We'd love to hear everything that you all have to say, and even if you're not Christian, we would still love to hear maybe your viewpoints.
Exactly.
Just because we love to hear different people's viewpoints and you know how they worship God and everything like that. So we really encourage you for that. So I'm Christine.
I'm Akshaya.
And this is Teen Talk, where we love to have fun,
talk about God,
and share His love. We'll see you next week.
Bye.